Billionaire belittled, a florist at his wedding. But her next words stopped the ceremony. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Thank you very much. God will bless you if you comment Amen on this video. Now, let's get back to our main character. The gray estate was glowing. Crystal chandeliers rained light down on marble floors, polished so perfectly they reflected every movement. Gold-trimmed chairs lined the aisle. A string quartet filled the air with delicate notes that felt more like a movie soundtrack than real life. It was the wedding of Alexander Gray, billionaire, real estate tycoon. Cold, controlled, untouchable. The man people whispered about with equal parts admiration and fear. Today, he was marrying the daughter of a senator, a merger of wealth and power dressed up as romance. Reporters filled the back rows, cameras clicking. Guests from the highest circles of business and politics leaned forward, savoring the spectacle. Every detail screamed perfection. Except one. At the altar, Alexander's hand tightened around a bouquet. His jaw flexed, fury building in his ice-blue eyes. "This," he said, voice echoing across the hall, "is a disgrace." The chatter died instantly. He lifted the bouquet of white roses and lilies for all to see. The stems shook under his grip. "Who arranged this?" His tone cut like a blade. Heads turned, eyes searched. And then, from the shadows near the side door, a young woman shifted nervously. Emma Carter. Her plain apron was smudged with pollen, her hair escaping the bun she had tied at dawn. Her hands still carried faint cuts from thorns. She was a florist, hired for the day. Nothing more. But in that moment she was suddenly the target of every eye in the room. Alexander's lip curled. "You call this a wedding bouquet? Cheap, tasteless. Do you even know what elegance means?" Laughter rippled among the guests. Polite, cruel laughter. The kind that made Emma's chest tighten until she could barely breathe. Her fingers fumbled with the ribbon she'd been holding. She wanted to vanish into the marble floor. But she couldn't. "Answer me." Alexander pressed, his eyes narrowing. "Did you think work like this belongs in my wedding?" Her throat was dry. Her heart pounded. But somehow, her voice came out clear. "Number." A collective gasp swept the room. Her eyes met his. "These flowers don't belong here, not like this." The silence was heavy. The senator's daughter clutched Alexander's arm, whispering, "Alex, why waste time with her?" But he didn't answer. He just stared. Emma took a breath. "White roses mixed with lilies? Together they release more pollen than most arrangements. It's careless. And if I'm not mistaken..." A cough broke out in the second row, then another. A man's eyes watered as his chest tightened. His wife panicked, clutching his sleeve. Before anyone else moved, Emma was there. She pulled a small vial from her apron pocket, knelt gracefully, and offered it. "Antihistamines. Take this. You're allergic." The man swallowed the pill with water she guided to his lips. Within seconds, his breathing steadied. The crowd erupted in whispers. She knew immediately. Was that luck? Number. That was knowledge. Alexander's brow furrowed. For a moment, the smirk vanished. He looked at Emma differently now. The senator muttered angrily from the front row. "This is humiliating. Remove her." Two security guards stepped forward. Emma's pulse spiked. She braced herself to be dragged out. But then Alexander raised his hand. "Wait." The guards froze. All eyes turned to him. He walked down from the altar, polished shoes echoing sharply on the marble. The room fell silent again. He stopped in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her chin up to meet his gaze. "Repeat what you said," he ordered. Emma blinked. "Which part?" "About lies," he pressed. "Say it again." Her voice wavered, but her words were steady. "These arrangements aren't symbols of love. They're contradictions. Loyalty forced next to vanity. Purity crushed by pride. It's not harmony, it's a lie." Gasps filled the hall. The bride's cheeks flushed red. "How dare you?" Alexander silenced her with a glance. Emma's heart raced. Her palms sweated. "You've gone too far." But his eyes were not angry. They were intrigued, almost unsettled. Then it happened. A crash echoed. One of the massive floral arches tipped, scattering petals like broken promises across the floor. Gasps. Screams. Guests leapt to their feet. Emma rushed forward, catching the base before it toppled onto a row of chairs. She braced her weight, steadying it until others rushed to help. Breathless, she turned back to Alexander. "If you want this wedding to stand," she said, her chest rising and falling, "you'd better let me fix it." The ballroom was silent, all cameras aimed at her. The florist with dirt on her hands, standing toe-to-toe with a billionaire. And Alexander Gray, mocking, ruthless, untouchable, stared at her like he'd just seen something he couldn't explain. For the first time in years, the man who controlled everything didn't know what to do. And in that silence, Emma Carter, the woman no one noticed until now, had stopped his wedding. The air inside the ballroom was heavy. Petals still clung to Emma's apron, the faint scent of crushed lilies rising from the marble floor. Alexander Gray stood motionless. For once, the billionaire who commanded entire boardrooms seemed uncertain. His fiancée's diamond-covered hand tightened around his arm. Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "Alex, this nonsense has gone on long enough. End it, now." But he didn't move. Instead, his eyes lingered on Emma Carter, the florist who just called his wedding a lie. The woman who stopped his ceremony without even meaning to. Guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Murmurs rippled like waves. Who does she think she is? She's just a florist. No one talks to Alexander Gray like that. Reporters clicked furiously, flashes lighting up Emma's stunned face. She wanted to shrink, to disappear into the crowd. But it was too late. Her words had already been carved into the marble walls. The senator, towering and silver-haired, rose from the front row. His voice boomed. "This is outrageous. Mr. Gray, you cannot allow this humiliation to continue. Security." Two guards began to step forward again. Emma's stomach twisted. Her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. "This is it. They'll throw me out like trash." But then Alexander spoke. "Stop." The single word froze the room. The guards halted mid-step. The senator's jaw tightened. The bride's painted smile faltered. Alexander's polished shoes clicked as he descended the steps of the altar. Each step seemed louder than the last. He stopped just a few feet from Emma, close enough that she could see the steel in his eyes. "Say it again," he said. Her breath hitched. "What?" "About the flowers. About lies. Say it again." Emma swallowed. Her throat was dry, but her voice carried. "This wedding isn't built on harmony. It's built on contradictions. Roses beside lilies. Symbols twisted until they lose meaning. It looks beautiful, but it's false." The words cut through the air like thunder. The bride gasped, color flooding her cheeks. "You dare insult our wedding? You some florist?" Emma's pulse raced, but she held her ground. "I didn't insult it. I just told the truth." The guests leaned forward, hungry for scandal, waiting for blood, and then something no one expected. Alexander chuckled. Not a cruel laugh. Not the mocking tone he used before. It was short, dry, almost admiring. The senator exploded. "Alexander, this woman is making a fool of you. Get rid of her now, or this alliance is finished." Alliance. The word made Emma's heart stutter. She looked at Alexander, searching his face. "This marriage, it isn't about love, is it?" she whispered. Gasps spread through the hall. Alexander didn't answer. His silence said everything. The bride tore her veil off, diamonds scattering like broken glass across the marble. Her voice shook with rage. "I won't be humiliated like this. You want her? Fine. You can have her. But you'll lose me, and my father, and everything he promised you." She stormed down the aisle, heels striking the floor like gunfire. The senator followed, fury radiating off him like heat. "You've just destroyed your empire, Gray." Within moments, half the room dissolved into chaos. Guests whispered, reporters shouted. Camera flashes turned blinding, and in the middle of it all stood Emma Carter, the florist, the girl in an apron, the girl who stopped a billionaire's wedding. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She looked at Alexander, almost pleading. "I never meant for this. I didn't mean to." "You told the truth. he cut in, his voice low, steady. Her eyes searched his. And now? He glanced around the shattered ceremony, the cameras capturing every second, the whispers that would turn into headlines by morning. His jaw flexed. Now we deal with the consequences. Emma's heart dropped. She wasn't supposed to be part of this world. She wasn't supposed to be standing under a chandelier with hundreds of eyes on her, facing off with a billionaire. And yet, she was. Alexander straightened his jacket, turning toward the crowd. His voice rang with authority again. This wedding is over, but the truth remains. Gasps echoed. A woman in pearls fainted into her husband's arms. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Mr. Gray, are you canceling the marriage? Who is this florist? Is she the reason? Security tried to block them, but it was too late. The story had already written itself. Emma's hands shook. Her mind screamed, "Leave now. Run before it gets worse." But her feet wouldn't move. Alexander looked at her again, his eyes softer now, though his face remained unreadable. "You're not leaving, Emma." Her breath caught. "Why?" "Because you just revealed the only honesty this room has seen all day." The press shouted louder. Guests scrambled. The senator barked into his phone, calling lawyers, calling anyone who could salvage the disaster. And Emma Carter stood frozen, caught in the storm she never wanted. Her past echoed in her mind. Nights spent studying under dim light, dreams of medical school slipping away when her mother's illness devoured every dollar. Years arranging flowers, the only job that kept her afloat. She wasn't supposed to be here, but somehow she was at the center of the most powerful wedding in the city. Alexander's gaze hardened again. "Come with me." "What?" "Now." His voice carried finality. "Before they tear you apart." He stepped forward, brushing past her, expecting her to follow. Emma froze. Every instinct screamed not to trust him, not to step deeper into a world that wasn't hers. But when she glanced at the cameras, the sneering guests, the furious senator, she realized she had no choice. Her feet moved, one step, then another, until she was walking beside the billionaire whose wedding she just destroyed. The doors slammed behind them as they exited the ballroom. Reporters screamed. Guests erupted. And in that instant, the entire city knew. Something had just begun. The heavy oak doors slammed shut behind them, sealing off the chaos of the ballroom. Reporters' voices still echoed faintly from inside, muffled but relentless. Emma Carter pressed her back against the cool wall, her chest heaving. She could still smell the lilies crushed beneath her shoes, still feel the weight of hundreds of eyes on her. Her hands trembled. What did I just do? She looked at Alexander Gray. The billionaire groom stood perfectly still in the hallway, his tuxedo flawless despite the storm they had just left. His expression was unreadable. For the first time, Emma realized she had no idea what he would do next. He adjusted his cufflinks slowly, deliberately. Then, without looking at her, he said, "You shouldn't have followed me." Her heart skipped. "I didn't exactly have a choice. Half the city just saw me ruin your wedding." Finally, his gaze cut to hers. Sharp. Calculating. But beneath the steel, something flickered. Something dangerously close to curiosity. "You didn't ruin it," he said evenly. "You revealed it." Emma blinked. Revealed what? That it was a business transaction dressed as love. His jaw tightened. "And you ripped the mask off in front of everyone." Emma shook her head, overwhelmed. "I didn't mean to. I just spoke what I saw." "That's the problem," Alexander muttered. "You saw too much." Hare's stomach dropped. "Too much?" Before she could answer, the sound of hurried footsteps approached. A young man in a suit, clearly one of Alexander's aides, rushed toward them. His voice was urgent, almost panicked. "Mr. Gray, the media's going insane. The senator is threatening to sue, to tank the merger deal." His eyes darted to Emma. "And her face is everywhere. They're calling her the wedding wrecker." Emma's knees nearly buckled. "Everywhere?" Alexander's expression hardened. "Get the car." The aide nodded and disappeared down the corridor. Emma's voice trembled. "I should just leave. Get as far from this mess as I can. You don't need me making things worse." But Alexander stepped closer. His height, his presence, it pulled the air out of the hallway. "You think walking away erases this? By tomorrow morning, Every paper in the country will have your name on it. You can't hide anymore." Emma's breath caught. The truth hit her like a stone. She wasn't invisible anymore. Not the way she'd been her whole life. The aide returned. "Car's ready, sir." Alexander gestured sharply. "She's coming with me." Emma froze. "What?" "Number I can't." His eyes locked onto hers. "You don't have a choice. Out there, they'll eat you alive. With me, at least you stand a chance." The aide opened the side door leading out to the private driveway. Black SUVs idled, engines low and threatening. Security guards in dark suits scanned the perimeter. Emma's throat tightened. This wasn't her world. She was a florist, for God's sake. She belonged with soil under her nails, not in the back seat of a billionaire's convoy. But when Alexander extended his hand, she realized he was right. Alone, she wouldn't last a day. She placed her trembling hand in his. The door shut behind them. Inside the SUV, silence pressed heavy. City lights streaked across the tinted windows as they pulled away from the estate. Emma stared at her hands, dirt still under her nails, pollen still staining her skin. She felt like a stain herself in this polished car. Finally, Alexander spoke. His voice was low, almost to himself. "Do you always carry medication in your apron?" Emma blinked at him, startled by the question. "Yes. My mother. She had severe allergies, and She stopped, her words catching. "I learned to be prepared, always." His eyes flickered, studying. For the first time, he didn't look like the untouchable billionaire. He looked like a man trying to piece together a puzzle. "You studied medicine," he said, not asking, but stating. Her heart clenched. "I did, for 2 years, until my mom got sick. The bills were impossible. I left school, took whatever work I could." She let out a bitter laugh. "Florist doesn't exactly scream, 'Future doctor,' does it?" Silence stretched. Emma regretted saying so much. But then Alexander spoke quietly, almost reluctantly. "It screams survival." Her eyes widened. She hadn't expected that. But before she could respond, the aide in the front seat turned. His voice was urgent. "Sir, it's worse. Social media's on fire. Hashtags trending with her name. The senator's team is pushing a narrative that she seduced you to break the alliance." Emma's blood ran cold. "What? That's insane." "Light." Alexander cursed under his breath. "Of course they'd spin it that way." He turned to her. "Which means you can't go back to your apartment. Paparazzi will be there already." Emma shook her head. "Then where am I supposed to go?" His answer was immediate. "With me." Her stomach flipped. Living under the same roof as the man who humiliated her hours ago? The man who just lost his bride and his empire because of her words? But when she looked into his eyes, she didn't see mockery anymore. She saw determination, a spark of something that made her chest tighten in ways she didn't want to admit. She looked away quickly. "This is insane." "Welcome to my world," he said dryly. The car turned, headlights cutting through the dark. The city sprawled outside, alive with rumors, flashing with breaking news alerts. Emma Carter was no longer invisible. She was the center of a storm she never asked for. And Alexander Gray, the billionaire who once belittled her, was now the only shield she had. As the SUV disappeared into the night, one truth became clear. This was only the beginning. The black SUV rolled through the midnight city, headlights slicing the dark. Outside, news vans already gathered at intersections, cameras flashing as they chased. The ruined wedding had turned into a spectacle, and Emma Carter's name was on every reporter's lips. Inside the car, silence pressed heavy. Emma's hands twisted in her lap. Her apron still smelled faintly of crushed roses, a cruel reminder that only hours ago she was arranging centerpieces, just another invisible worker. Now she was the reason the most powerful wedding in the city had collapsed. Her voice broke the silence. "Where are we going?" Alexander's gaze stayed fixed on the skyline. "Somewhere safe." Emma shook her head. "Safe? With you? You realize I'm the reason your deal just exploded." Finally, his eyes turned to her, cold, sharp, but steady. "You're not the reason. The lie was the reason. You just had the courage to say it out loud." Her chest tightened. She wasn't sure if that was comfort or accusation. The car slowed, pulling into a long, winding drive lined with iron gates. Beyond them loomed the gray estate larger than anything Emma had ever imagined. Marble columns rose like ancient guardians. Balconies stretched endlessly. Lights glowed from hundreds of windows, bathing the driveway in golden radiance. It wasn't just a house, it was a fortress of wealth. Emma's breath caught. "You live here?" Alexander didn't answer. He simply stepped out as security rushed to open his door. When Emma hesitated, one of the guards opened hers as well. She stumbled out, clutching her bag. She felt smaller than ever against the towering gates. "This is insane," she whispered. "Welcome to my world," Alexander said, striding past her toward the front steps. "Keep up." Inside, the mansion was even more overwhelming. A grand staircase split into two curling paths like wings of an angel. Chandeliers bigger than her entire apartment blazed overhead. Every surface gleamed. Every corner whispered wealth. Emma froze at the threshold, her scuffed shoes squeaking against polished marble. She didn't belong here. Every instinct screamed it. "Follow me," Alexander ordered without looking back. She hurried after him, her apron strings trailing. They entered a vast living room where walls were lined with books, art pieces worth more than her yearly rent, and a fireplace taller than she was. Finally, Alexander turned to face her. "You'll stay here until this storm dies down." Emma stared. "Stay? In this house? With you?" He didn't flinch. "Unless you'd rather face the press camped outside your apartment." Her lips parted. She had no answer. One of his aides stepped forward nervously. "Sir, the headlines are brutal. The senator is accusing her of being your mistress. They're painting this as sabotage." Emma's knees nearly gave out. "What? That's not true." Alexander's jaw tightened. "Of course it isn't. But truth doesn't matter right now. Narrative does. Which is why you'll stay here, out of their reach." Emma shook her head furiously. "I can't just move into your mansion. I have a life, a job. People will think." "They already think worse," he interrupted sharply. "You can't fight this alone." The aide hesitated, then added, "Sir, should we prepare a guest room?" Emma's cheeks flushed hot. The thought of guest room inside his mansion felt like stepping into another universe. Alexander didn't even blink. "Yes, East Wing. And make sure the press can't trace her things." The aide hurried off. Emma folded her arms tightly. "I'm not some secret you can stash away in your castle." His eyes narrowed. "Number, you're a problem I need to protect before it destroys us both." "Oh." Her heart lurched. Protect or control? The tension snapped when her phone buzzed. She yanked it out, hoping for a lifeline. But her screen was flooded with notifications. Dozens, hundreds. Her picture was everywhere. Headlines screamed, "Florist wrecks, billionaire wedding. Who is Emma Carter?" From petals to power. The mystery woman at Gray's ceremony. Her stomach dropped. She whispered, "My life is over." Alexander's gaze softened for the briefest second. "Number? It's just beginning." The aide returned quickly. "The room is ready, sir." Alexander gave a curt nod. "Take her upstairs." Emma hesitated, clutching her phone. Her voice cracked. "I didn't ask for this, any of it." Alexander studied her for a long moment. Then his reply came, low and steady. "Neither did I." The room prepared for her was bigger than her entire apartment. A canopy bed, velvet drapes, windows overlooking the sprawling city. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, her bag clutched tightly, still wearing her florist's apron-like armor. She whispered into the empty room, "What am I doing here?" Her phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't headlines. It was a message. From an unknown number. It read, "You don't know who you're dealing with. Stay away from Gray, or you'll regret it." Emma's blood ran cold. Downstairs, Alexander stood alone in the library, a glass of scotch in hand. His reflection stared back from the tall window, flawless tuxedo. But a man unraveling inside. He whispered to himself, "What have you done, Gray?" Because for the first time in years, he wasn't in control. And the woman who shattered his perfect facade was sleeping under his roof. The glow of the city stretched endlessly outside Emma Carter's window. But inside her room in the Gray mansion, everything was silent. Too silent. She sat on the edge of the massive bed, still gripping her phone. The message burned in her mind. "You don't know who you're dealing with. Stay away from Gray, or you'll regret it." Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. She wasn't paranoid. Someone knew her name. Someone wanted her gone. Emma dropped the phone onto the covers, burying her face in her hands. Only hours ago, she was nobody, just a florist, trying to survive. Now she was at the center of a scandal, living under the same roof as a billionaire she barely knew, and apparently, she had enemies. A knock rattled the door. Emma jumped. Before she could answer, Alexander's voice came from the other side. Deep, calm, commanding. "Emma, we need to talk." Her throat tightened. Part of her wanted to ignore him, to pretend this wasn't happening. But the truth was, she didn't have the luxury to hide. Not anymore. She crossed the room and opened the door. Alexander Gray stood in the hall, jacket gone, tie loosened. The controlled image of the perfect billionaire was cracked, just enough to reveal exhaustion beneath. His eyes flickered to the phone still in her hand. "Bad news?" Emma swallowed. "Depends how you define bad." She showed him the screen. His jaw clenched as he read the message. "Empty threat," he muttered. Emma's voice shook. "That doesn't look empty to me. Someone knows I'm here." "They'd know anyway," Alexander replied. "Your face is all over the media. Half the country knows you're under this roof." Her chest tightened. "And you're not worried?" His gaze darkened. "I've lived with threats my entire life. What matters is how you respond to them." Emma shook her head. "Easy for you to say. You have guards, power, money. Me? I have nothing. I don't even have a home anymore." The words slipped out before she could stop them. And once they did, silence stretched between them. Alexander's expression softened for a flicker of a second. Then he turned, voice low. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be worse." He started down the hall, but Emma's voice stopped him. "Why are you doing this? Why let me stay here at all? You don't even know me." He paused, his back to her. Finally, he said, "Because you're the only one who told me the truth." Then he walked away, leaving her alone with her racing thoughts. That night, Emma barely slept. When dawn broke, golden light spilled across the city and into her borrowed room. She sat by the window, watching as news helicopters buzzed above the estate. Paparazzi were already camped at the gates, their lenses glittering like a sea of eyes. Her phone buzzed again. Another headline. "From Florist to femme fatale, who is Emma Carter?" Emma's stomach churned. They were twisting her into something she wasn't. A villain, a temptress, a homewrecker. She whispered to herself, "I just wanted to arrange flowers." A knock came again, softer this time. The door opened without waiting. One of Alexander's aides entered, a tray of breakfast in hand. "Mr. Gray asked me to make sure you eat. You'll need strength today." Emma frowned. "Strength for what?" The aide shifted uncomfortably. "There's a press conference." Emma's fork clattered onto the plate. "Press conference? Number? Absolutely not. I can't stand in front of cameras again." "You won't be standing," the aide said quickly. "Mr. Gray will. But you're part of the story now. People will want to see you." Emma's heart dropped. She had barely survived last night. Now the whole world would see her again? Hours later, the Gray Mansion's main hall had been transformed. Rows of microphones lined the podium. Cameras pointed like rifles, ready to fire questions. Security stood at every corner, eyes sharp. And Emma stood just out of sight, her palms slick with sweat. Alexander walked past her, now fully armored in his suit and tie. Every inch the billionaire again. He stopped when he noticed her trembling hands. His voice dropped, just for her. "They'll try to break you, don't let them." Emma whispered. "Why me? Why not just tell them I was nothing? A florist who made a mistake?" His eyes locked on hers. "Because you're not nothing, and if I say that, you'll never escape it." Before she could respond, he stepped onto the stage. Flashes exploded. Reporters shouted. Alexander raised a hand, and silence fell. "My wedding," he began, "was not canceled because of sabotage. It was canceled because the truth came out. A truth too many of us ignore." He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. And yes, that truth was spoken by Emma Carter. Gasps. Cameras clicked faster. Emma's breath caught. He had said her name again. Publicly, intentionally. "She is not my mistress. She is not a pawn. She is a witness. And perhaps the only honest voice in that room." The crowd erupted. Reporters screamed questions. But Emma barely heard them. Her knees felt weak. Because for the second time in 24 hours, Alexander Gray had just changed her life. But in the corner of the hall, unseen by most, a man in a dark coat slipped away, a phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, dangerous. She's in deeper now, and if she doesn't walk away soon, she won't walk away at all. The press hall was still buzzing long after Alexander Gray left the podium. Reporters' voices clashed, microphones toppled, and flashes sparked like lightning. Emma Carter stood frozen behind the curtain, her heart hammering against her ribs. She had just heard her name spoken by the most powerful man in the city, spoken like it mattered. And yet, outside the mansion walls, the world was sharpening its knives. By the time Alexander stepped off stage, his aides swarmed him with papers, phones, and urgent whispers. But his eyes scanned past them until they landed on her. "You did well," he said simply. Emma shook her head. "I didn't even say anything." "Exactly," he replied. "Sometimes silence is the loudest answer." Her lips parted, but no words came. Silence might have power for him. But for her, silence meant she had no voice in the story shaping around her. And that story was spiraling out of control. Hours later, the headlines poured in. Alexander Gray defends Florist in scandal. Mystery woman Emma Carter hero or home wrecker. The billionaire, the bride, and the bouquet that broke everything. Emma's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Every alert chipped away at her sanity. She curled on the edge of the velvet sofa in the East Wing, hugging her knees. Outside, reporters crowded the gates, shouting her name like vultures circling prey. She whispered to herself, "This isn't me. I never wanted this." The door opened. Alexander entered, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. For once, he didn't look like the untouchable CEO. He looked like a man carrying a storm on his shoulders. He studied her curled frame for a moment before speaking. "Do you regret it?" Emma's head shot up. "Regret what? Telling the truth?" "Number." His gaze was steady. "Regret stepping into my world." Her throat tightened. She wanted to say yes, to scream it, but her voice betrayed her. "I didn't step into your world. You pulled me into it." His eyes softened barely, just enough for her to see the crack in his armor. Before she could say more, one of his aides rushed in. "Sir, we have a problem." Alexander's face hardened instantly. "What now?" The aide hesitated, then handed over a tablet. "Social media." The senator's team released footage. Edited. It looks like Miss Carter was flirting with you before the wedding." Emma's blood turned to ice. "That's a lie." The aide nodded grimly. "Yes, but lies travel faster than truth. It's already viral." Her stomach dropped. "First they call me a mistress, now a seductress." Alexander slammed the tablet onto the table. "They're trying to bury us both." Emma buried her face in her hands. "I can't take this. I can't fight a machine that powerful." He leaned closer, his voice low but fierce. "Then don't fight it alone. Fight it with me." Her eyes met his, and for the first time she saw something beyond arrogance in those icy eyes. She saw resolve, but also something warmer, something he didn't want to admit. That night, the mansion grew quiet again. Emma paced her room restlessly. The threat message from the night before still haunted her. Was it the senator's doing, or someone else entirely? She opened the curtains. Down below, security lights cast long shadows across the grounds. Guards patrolled, but beyond the fence, she swore she saw movement. A figure, watching. Her breath hitched. She stepped back quickly, yanking the curtains shut. Whoever it was, they hadn't gone away. Meanwhile, Alexander sat alone in his office. Papers littered the desk, contracts half signed, a glass of untouched scotch melting on the wood. He stared at a photo frame face down on the table. His hand hovered, then finally turned it over. A younger Alexander, with another woman, smiling, genuine. Her face was hidden from the audience, but his eyes in that photo, were softer than Emma had ever seen. He clenched his jaw and shoved the frame into a drawer. The past had no place here. Not now. Not with Emma Carter sleeping under his roof. The next morning, chaos erupted before breakfast. News vans had doubled outside the gates. Protesters held signs. "Homewreckers out. Gray betrayed us." Emma peeked through the curtains, horror twisting in her gut. "They hate me. People I've never even met, they hate me." Alexander joined her at the window, hands clasped behind his back. They hate the story. Not you. They don't even know you. Her voice cracked. And do you? The question hung heavy in the air. He turned his head, meeting her gaze. Not yet, he admitted. But I intend to. Before Emma could respond, the mansion alarm blared. Guards sprinted across the lawn. Alexander's phone buzzed. He snatched it up, listening. His face darkened. He looked at Emma. Stay here. But she grabbed his arm, panic flooding her chest. What is it? His voice was like steel. Someone tried to breach the estate. Her blood ran cold. Who? She whispered. Alexander's jaw tightened. That's what I intend to find out. As guards swarmed the grounds, Emma's phone buzzed once more. A new message. You should have stayed in the shadows, Florist. Now the light will burn you alive. Her hands trembled. This wasn't just gossip anymore. This was war. The mansion lights blazed red as the alarm echoed through every hall. Emma Carter pressed her back against the wall of her room, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. Her screen still glowed with the chilling words. You should have stayed in the shadows, Florist. Now the light will burn you alive. Her heart raced. Someone was out there, watching, waiting. She wasn't imagining it anymore. The door burst open. A guard in a black suit stepped in, hand on his earpiece. Miss Carter, stay calm. We've secured the perimeter. No one's getting in. Emma's breath trembled. But someone already tried, didn't they? He didn't answer. His silence was enough. Before she could press him, Alexander Gray appeared behind the guard. His presence filled the room instantly, his voice cutting through the panic. Emma, come with me. Her hands shook. What's happening? His jaw was tight, his tone clipped. Someone thought they could test my defenses. They failed. But his eyes dark, stormy, told a different story. This wasn't a victory. This was a warning. He guided her down the grand staircase. Guards moved swiftly across the marble floors, radios crackling. Outside, searchlights swept across the estate like blades of light. Emma's stomach twisted. She was living inside a fortress now, but somehow she had never felt more exposed. They entered the library. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting shadows against the shelves. Alexander shut the door firmly. Show me the phone. Emma hesitated, then handed it over. He read the message, his jaw clenching harder with every word. Finally, he set the phone down on the table. This isn't the senator, he said flatly. Emma blinked. What? Then who? If it were him, the threats would be public, loud, political. His eyes narrowed. This is personal. Her chest tightened. Personal? But I don't have enemies. I sell flowers. That's it. Alexander leaned forward, his gaze unyielding. No, Emma. You sell beauty. You walk into rooms unnoticed. People underestimate you. That makes you dangerous in ways you don't even realize. Emma shook her head. Dangerous? I'm nobody. He leaned closer, his voice dropping. Then why is someone so desperate to silence you? Her breath caught. For the first time, she realized. Maybe this wasn't about Alexander at all. Maybe she had been pulled into something much larger. The door creaked open again. One of the senior guards entered. His face was pale. Sir? We found something at the north wall. Alexander's tone was sharp. What? The guard hesitated, then held out a small object wrapped in a cloth. He unwrapped it carefully, revealing a single black rose. Emma's breath hitched. The petals were dark as midnight, the stem bound with a strip of crimson ribbon. Her voice quivered. That's not one of mine. Alexander's eyes hardened as he took the rose. It's a message, Emma whispered. What does it mean? His reply was cold. It means they've already been here, inside our walls. Emma's legs wobbled. She gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. This isn't happening. This can't be real. Alexander turned to her, steel in his voice. It is real, and until I know who's behind it, you don't leave my sight. Understand? Her throat tightened. So now I'm a prisoner? His gaze softened, just barely. Protected. There's a difference. But Emma wasn't so sure. The night dragged on in a haze of fear. Guards patrolled outside her room. Cameras were checked, locks reinforced. Yet Emma couldn't shake the feeling of eyes on her. Of that black rose. Every creak of the mansion made her flinch. Every shadow seemed to stretch too far. When sleep finally came, it was restless. Morning broke with the roar of helicopters above the estate. News crews hovered, desperate for another glimpse of the scandal's new centerpiece. Emma stood by the window, pale light painting her face. She felt like a specimen under glass. The door opened, and Alexander stepped in, immaculate as ever in his tailored suit. But his eyes looked tired, shadowed. "We need answers," he said. "And I think you have some." Emma turned sharply. "Me? I told you, I don't know anything. I'm just— Don't say just a florist again." He cut her off, his voice sharp. "You see things others miss. You read people in ways boardrooms full of executives can't. You notice the contradictions at my wedding when no one else did. That's not coincidence. That's instinct." Emma's lips parted. She had no reply. He stepped closer. "So think, Emma. That rose, the ribbon, the message. What does it remind you of?" Her mind spun. Memories of flower shops, late-night deliveries, whispered requests from customers. And then it hit her. Her breath caught. "Number. It can't be." Alexander's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Emma's voice trembled. "A client. Months ago. He ordered black roses. Dozens. Paid cash. No name, no address. Just a ring. A gold ring with an insignia. I thought it was strange, but—" Her words faltered. Alexander's expression turned grave. "What insignia?" Emma swallowed. "A serpent, wrapped around a crown." The room went cold. Alexander's jaw tightened. His voice dropped to a near growl. "I know that symbol." Emma stared at him. "What does it mean?" He didn't answer. He turned away, running a hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. Finally, he faced her again. "It means this goes deeper than I thought. And you were never supposed to see it." Her chest tightened. "Alexander, what aren't you telling me?" He stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. "If that symbol is back in play, then you're not just a florist who spoke out of turn at a wedding. You're a target in a war that's been waiting to resurface for years." Emma's knees weakened. She gripped the chair again. "A war? What are you talking about?" His eyes locked on hers. "Something I hoped you'd never have to know." But before he could explain, the guards' radios crackled violently. "Sir, breach on the south perimeter." Emma's stomach plummeted. Alexander grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the door. "Stay close. No matter what happens, don't let go." Her voice shook. "Alexander, what's happening?" He didn't look back. His reply was steel. "The past is coming for us." The alarms screamed again, echoing off the marble walls of the gray mansion. Guards rushed past, radios blaring, boots pounding against the floor. Emma Carter clutched Alexander's arm as he pulled her down the corridor. Her heart pounded so violently she thought it might burst. "Alexander, what's happening?" she gasped. He didn't slow. His grip was steel. "An attack. They're here." Emma's blood turned to ice. They. Whoever they weren't just whispers anymore. They reached the east wing. Guards flanked the hall, weapons drawn, their faces grim. The head of security spoke quickly. "Sir, 2 men were spotted near the south wall. They disappeared before we could apprehend them. But this—" He held out a small object. Alexander snatched it. His face darkened. Emma craned her neck to see. Another rose, black, bound with the same crimson ribbon. Her chest constricted. "They left it here, inside?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "They want us to know they can get close." Emma's voice cracked. "This is insane. Why me? Why flowers?" Alexander finally looked at her. His eyes burned with a mixture of anger and something else, something dangerously close to fear. "Because the serpent has risen again. And you saw its mark." Emma shook her head violently. "I don't even know what that means. I just arranged flowers for a stranger months ago. That's all." Alexander's hand shot out, gripping her shoulders. "That's not all. They don't leave witnesses, Emma. If you cross paths with them, even by accident, you're already marked." Her breath caught. "Marked? For what?" His reply was ice. "Elimination." The word slammed into her chest like a blade. Her vision blurred. She staggered back, gripping the wall. "You're saying they'll kill me? Because of flowers?" Alexander's expression hardened. "Not flowers, symbols, messages, power." He stepped closer, his voice low, urgent. "That black rose wasn't a coincidence. It was a signature. one that hasn't been seen in this city for over a decade. Emma's pulse quickened. So what are they? A gang? A cult? His eyes didn't leave hers. Worse, they're a society. Hidden, ancient, ruthless. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't her world. She didn't belong in this. She was a florist, not a pawn in some shadow war. And yet, here she was. The guards outside shouted. More movement at the gates. Emma jumped, panic surging. I can't do this. I can't stay here, Alexander. I don't belong in your war. But he grabbed her wrist, his grip unyielding. This isn't just my war anymore. It's ours. You stepped into it the moment you opened your mouth at my wedding. His voice dropped. A whisper meant only for her. And I'll be damned before I let them take you. Her heart stuttered. She hated him, his arrogance, his power, his control. But right then, she also believed him. The head of security returned. Sir, we've secured the perimeter. No breach inside. But the press has the story already. They know about the roses. Emma's stomach dropped. The media again? Alexander cursed under his breath. They're not just watching us. They're feeding the fire. Emma's hands trembled. So what happens now? He turned to her, voice low, resolute. Now, I tell you the truth. The whole truth. Because if you're going to survive this, you need to know what I've spent my life burying. The library door slammed shut behind them. Alexander poured a glass of scotch but didn't drink it. Instead, he paced before the fire, his expression torn between fury and something deeper. Emma stood by the shelves, arms wrapped around herself. The room smelled of smoke and leather and secrets. Finally, he spoke. Years ago, before I built my empire, before I became the man the world loves to hate, I was just a son of a man who made enemies. Emma's breath caught. He had never spoken of family. My father. His jaw tightened. He was powerful. But he crossed the wrong people. The ones with the serpent and crown. They called themselves the Order. Emma's pulse raced. The Order? He nodded. They ruled from the shadows. Money, influence, silence. They didn't tolerate betrayal. His eyes burned as he turned to her. One night, they left a black rose at our doorstep. The next morning, my father was dead. Emma's knees buckled. Oh my God. Alexander's voice was gravel. I swore I'd destroy them. I spent years erasing their influence, cutting their roots from the city. I thought I'd succeeded, until now. Emma's throat tightened. And me? Why drag me into this? He stepped closer, his gaze piercing. Because you saw their flower. You named it. You connected the dots before anyone else. And now, they think you're a threat. Emma's body trembled. I didn't ask for this. I just wanted to survive, to pay bills, to live. His voice softened, almost breaking. Neither did I, Emma. But here we are. The fire crackled. Shadows flickered across his face, making him look less like a billionaire and more like a haunted man. For the first time, Emma saw beyond the cold exterior. She saw the boy who lost his father. The man who built walls, not just of stone and money, but of steel around his heart. Her own heart ached despite herself. But before either could speak, a guard burst into the room. Sir, we've intercepted communication. They're planning something bigger. Tonight. Fro. Emma's stomach plummeted. Bigger? What does that mean? The guard's voice was grim. It means they're not done testing us. They're preparing to strike. Alexander's jaw set. He looked at Emma. You asked what happens now? She nodded, her breath unsteady. He straightened, every inch the billionaire warrior again. Now, we fight back. Emma's voice cracked. Fight back? Against them? Alexander, we're just two people. His eyes burned with resolve. No, Emma. We're the only two who see the truth. And that makes us the most dangerous people in this city. Emma's phone buzzed again. She lifted it with trembling hands. A new message. This time, it wasn't a threat. It was a picture. Of her, taken from outside her window. Last night, Emma's scream caught in her throat. They're watching me, even here. Her vision blurred, tears threatened. Alexander crossed the room in 2 strides, gripping her face gently but firmly, forcing her to meet his eyes. Then let them watch. His voice was low, fire in every word. Because when we strike back, they won't see it coming. The photo glowed on Emma's screen, a chilling reminder she was no longer invisible. Her hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped the phone. The image was grainy, but clear enough. She was standing by the window, curtains half closed, light spilling across her face. Taken from outside, taken while she thought she was safe. Her voice cracked. They're here. They've been here. Watching her. Alexander Gray took the phone from her, his expression darkening with every second. His thumb pressed hard against the glass, as though he could shatter the threat with sheer force. "They're escalating," he muttered. Emma staggered back, pressing her hand against the bookshelf for balance. "Escalating? You mean, this is only the beginning?" His eyes lifted, hard and unflinching. "Yes." Before she could respond, the mansion alarms shrieked again. Guards shouted in the hall. Radios buzzed with frantic commands. Southgate breached. Multiple hostiles spotted. Lockdown in effect. Emma's pulse skyrocketed. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't another warning. The order had come for them. Alexander grabbed her wrist, pulling her toward the side door of the library. "Stay with me." Emma's breath caught. "Where are we going?" "To the panic hall," he replied. "Underground. Reinforced." She stumbled after him, her legs barely keeping up with his long strides. The mansion around them erupted in chaos, guards sprinting, windows sealed with metal shutters, the thunder of boots pounding against marble. Emma's chest heaved. "Alexander, what if they get in?" His grip tightened. "Then they'll regret it." They reached a hidden passage behind one of the tall bookshelves. Alexander pressed a panel, and the shelf swung open, revealing a dark stairwell leading underground. Emma froze. "You have a secret tunnel?" His voice was grim. "You don't build an empire without building escape routes." They descended quickly, the sound of alarms muffled as the door sealed behind them. The stairwell twisted down into a long corridor, its walls lined with steel. Dim lights flickered overhead. Emma's heart raced with every echo of her footsteps. This was no longer the world of flowers and fragile beauty she knew. This was a world of secrets, shadows, and danger. At the end of the hall, a vault-like door loomed. Alexander pressed his hand against the scanner. With a hiss, the door slid open, revealing a secure chamber. Inside, monitors displaying every angle of the mansion grounds. Security feeds flickered, guards, holding positions, intruders in dark coats scaling the gates. Emma's stomach twisted. The attackers moved with precision, not like petty criminals but trained operatives. "They're organized," she whispered. Alexander's voice was steel. "They always are." On one screen, Emma saw a figure standing motionless beyond the chaos, watching. The same insignia gleamed faintly on his ring. A serpent wrapped around a crown. Her breath caught. "That's him, the one I saw months ago." He ordered the black roses. Alexander's fists clenched. "Then he's the one pulling the strings." The lights flickered suddenly. One by one, the monitors went black. Emma gasped. "What's happening?" Alexander's jaw tightened. "They're cutting power. They want us blind." For a moment, the chamber was plunged into darkness. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. She felt Alexander's hand brush against hers in the dark, steadying her. Then emergency lights glowed red, bathing the room in an ominous haze. The monitors flickered back just in time to show masked figures breaking through the south wing doors. Emma's stomach lurched. There inside, guards clashed with intruders in the halls. The sound of gunfire echoed faintly through the steel. Emma pressed her hands against her ears. "Oh my God, they're going to kill us." But Alexander's voice cut through her panic, low and commanding. "Number, they'll have to go through me first." She turned, trembling. "You can't fight them all." He stepped closer, eyes burning. "Watch me." For a second, Emma saw it the man beneath the billionaire mask. Not just a tycoon, but a warrior forged in loss and vengeance. And for the first time, she wasn't sure if she was more terrified of the attackers or of him. The door to the panic hall rattled. Emma froze. The sound was faint, but unmistakable metal, bending under force. "They found us," she whispered. Alexander positioned himself between her and the door. His voice was steady, almost calm. "Stay behind me, no matter what happens." Her eyes blurred with tears. "Alexander..." But before she could say more, the steel screeched. The vault door dented inward. Once, twice. Emma's body shook with every slam. Finally, the door burst open. Masked figures stormed in, shadows against the red light. Emma screamed, stumbling back. But Alexander surged forward like a storm unleashed. The first attacker swung a weapon. Alexander caught his arm, twisting hard until a sickening crack echoed. The man dropped. Another lunged. Alexander's fist collided, dropping him instantly. Emma could barely breathe. This wasn't boardroom Alexander. This was someone else. Someone failed, but there were too many. 3, 4, 5 men circled, weapons raised. Alexander's chest heaved, sweat glistening on his temples. He stood tall, refusing to back down. Emma's voice broke. "Alexander, stop! You'll get yourself killed." He glanced back at her, just for a second, and in his eyes she saw it fury, yes, but also something raw, something unspoken. Then he roared, charging again. The chamber erupted in chaos. Emma ducked behind a console, her heart slamming. She wanted to help, but what could a florist do against killers? Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Trembling, she pulled it out. Another message. "We don't want him. We want you." Her blood froze. Her voice cracked. "Alexander, it's me. They're after me." But he was too deep in the fight to hear. One of the masked men broke through, heading straight for her. Emma screamed, backing into the wall. His shadow loomed over her, weapon raised. In that instant, the world seemed to slow. She thought of the flower shop, of her quiet life, of the moment she dared to speak the truth at a wedding that wasn't hers. And she realized her life had been over since that day. Unless she fought. Her hand shot out, grabbing the nearest object, a glass bottle from the console. With every ounce of strength, she smashed it across the attacker's head. He collapsed instantly. Emma's chest heaved, her hands trembling. She had done it. She had fought back. But the others turned toward her now, rage burning in their eyes. Alexander's roar cut through the chaos. "Emma!" He lunged, taking down another man, but one slipped past him, charging at Emma with a blade. She froze, paralyzed. The blade gleamed under the red light. The man lunged, and Alexander threw himself between them. The blade slashed across his side. Emma's scream tore through the chamber. "Alexander!" He staggered, blood seeping into his white shirt. Yet he stayed standing. One hand clutched his wound, the other punching the attacker so hard he crashed against the steel wall. Emma ran to him, tears streaming. "You're hurt. Oh God, you're bleeding." He forced a smirk, though his face was pale. "Better me than you." Her chest shattered. This arrogant, impossible man had just risked everything for her. The remaining intruders fled as guards stormed in, finally overwhelming the breach. The order had vanished into the shadows again, but they had left their mark. Emma clung to Alexander, pressing her hands against his wound. "Stay with me, please. Don't you dare leave me." His eyes, heavy with pain, locked onto hers, and in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Emma, you were never just a florist." Blood. It soaked through Alexander Gray's pristine white shirt, staining it a deep crimson. Emma Carter pressed her hands desperately against the wound, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Stay with me, please. Don't you dare leave me." Alexander's face was pale, his jaw clenched against the pain. Yet somehow, his eyes still held that unyielding fire. "I've survived worse," he whispered, voice hoarse. "This won't be the end of me." Ah! But his knees buckled, and Emma caught him with all the strength she had. Guards swarmed the chamber, weapons raised, scanning for stragglers. "Sir, the intruders are gone," one reported breathlessly. "But they left chaos in their wake," Emma shouted, panic thick in her voice. "He needs a doctor, now!" The guards exchanged uncertain glances. One muttered, "The press is outside, if we call an ambulance." "Then the whole world will know," Alexander groaned, finishing his sentence. Emma's heart broke at his stubbornness. Even bleeding, even on the edge of collapse, he was still protecting his empire first. She snapped at the guards. "Forget the press. He's bleeding out. Get help." They carried him to a hidden medical room deep beneath the mansion. The walls were sterile, lined with cabinets of supplies, as if Alexander had prepared for this long ago. Emma sat at his side, clutching his hand, refusing to let go, as a private doctor worked furiously. Stitches, bandages, the sharp smell of antiseptic filled the air. Emma flinched at every sound, every groan of pain he made. Her heart twisted with guilt. "This happened because of me," she whispered. Alexander's eyes flickered open, heavy with exhaustion. His voice was barely a rasp. No, Emma. This happened because of them. Oars blurred. Finally, the doctor stepped back, pulling off his gloves. The blade missed vital organs. He's lucky. He'll recover, but he needs rest. Emma nearly collapsed with relief. She leaned over Alexander, brushing damp hair from his forehead. "Did you hear that? You're going to be fine," she whispered. His lips curved in the faintest smirk. "Told you. I don't go down that easily." Her throat tightened. She wanted to yell at him for risking his life. She wanted to thank him for saving hers. She wanted too many things at once. When the doctor left, silence settled. Emma sat in the chair beside the bed, holding his hand as if it anchored her in reality. Alexander studied her through heavy eyes. "Why are you still here?" Her voice cracked. "Where else would I be?" He let out a weak laugh, then winced at the pain. "You should run, before the order drags you deeper." Emma shook her head fiercely. "Run where? They already found me here. They'll find me anywhere." His gaze softened. "You don't deserve this war, Emma." Her lips trembled. "Neither did you, but you still fight." For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick, heavy, unspoken. Later that night, Emma couldn't sleep. She paced the medical room, every sound in the mansion above echoing in her nerves. She kept replaying the attack in her head, the blade, Alexander's roar, the way he threw himself between her and death. He had saved her, not once, but twice, and now he was paying the price. She stopped, gripping the counter, whispering to herself, "You can't fall for him! You can't!" But her heart betrayed her. Because she already had. The next morning, Alexander woke to find Emma asleep at his bedside, her head resting against his arm. For the first time in years, a strange warmth spread through his chest. Something unfamiliar. Something dangerous in its own way. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. She stirred, blinking awake. "You stayed," he murmured. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. "Of course I did." He searched her eyes for a long moment, as though trying to read a truth she wasn't ready to admit. But before either could speak, the head of security burst in. "Sir, we intercepted communication overnight. The order. They're planning something bigger. They called last night's breach a test." Emma's stomach dropped. "A test? That wasn't even their real attack?" The guard nodded grimly. "They're moving fast. We believe the target isn't just the estate. It's you, both of you." Alexander's jaw clenched. He struggled to sit upright despite his wound. "Let them come." "Oh." Emma gripped his arm, panic flooding her chest. "No. You're barely standing. You can't fight them like this." But his eyes burned with unyielding resolve. "I don't have a choice." Emma stood, trembling. "Then neither do I." Alexander stallade her stundet. "Emma, no." "Yes." She cut him off, her voice sharp with a new kind of strength. "I may not be a fighter. I may not have money or power. But they came for me. They want me. That means I'm already in this, whether I like it or not." Her hands shook, but her voice didn't. "And if I'm going down, I'm not going down quietly." For a moment, Alexander just looked at her. Then, slowly, painfully, he smiled. "There's more fight in you than you think." The guard cleared his throat. "Sir, Miss Carter, if the order strikes again, it won't be with roses and shadows. It'll be all out war." Emma swallowed hard. War. The word echoed like a bell tolling in her skull. She turned to Alexander, whispering, "Then what do we do?" His voice was low, steady. "We do what they least expect." Emma frowned. "And what's that?" Alexander's eyes locked onto hers, fire blazing even through his pain. "We go after them first." Emma's chest tightened. The thought of striking back terrified her. She was a florist, not a soldier. But as she looked into his eyes, she realized something. He wasn't asking her to be a soldier. He was asking her to be brave. And for him, for the man who had nearly died protecting her, she could be. She squeezed his hand, nodding. "Then we do it together." Outside the mansion, the city buzzed with scandal. Headlines screamed about the attack. The mysterious florist at the center of it all. The billionaire wounded in a fight that no one could quite explain. But inside the gray estate, something new was being forged. Not just a defense. A war plan. Emma Carter, the florist who once blended into the background, was about to step into the spotlight of a battle she never imagined. And beside her was Alexander Gray, the man who had once belittled her, now bound to her by blood, secrets, and something neither of them dared to name. But as night fell again, a new message arrived on Emma's phone. This time, it wasn't a photo. It was a video. A child's voice whispered through the static. "Florist, you can't protect him, and he can't protect you." Emma's blood ran cold. Because the voice wasn't a stranger's it was a voice she knew. The video replayed on Emma's trembling phone. Static, a shadowed figure. And then, a child's voice, soft, eerie, filled with a taunting innocence. "Florist, you can't protect him, and he can't protect you." Emma's blood froze. Because it wasn't just any voice. It was a voice she recognized. Her lips parted, her heart hammering against her ribs. No, it can't be." Alexander's sharp gaze flicked to her. "Emma, who is it?" She shook her head violently, clutching the phone to her chest. "It's impossible. It's someone I know." Alexander stepped closer, his voice low, commanding. "Tell me." Emma's throat tightened. Memories rushed forward, fragments of laughter, flowers, and a little boy running through her shop with a wild grin. Her voice cracked. "It sounded like Liam." Alexander frowned. "Liam?" She nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "My sister's son, my nephew. He's only 8. He comes to my shop after school sometimes. He loves hiding between the buckets of roses. He's family." Alexander's expression hardened instantly. "Then the order has him." Emma staggered back, shaking her head. No, they couldn't. My sister would never." But deep down, she knew. The order didn't ask. They took. Her knees buckled. She collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands. "God, no. Not him. He's just a child." Alexander knelt before her, gripping her wrists firmly, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me. This is what they do. They use fear. They use family. They break you before they strike." Tears streamed down Emma's face. "Then what do I do? How do I fight them when they have him?" His voice was steel. "You don't. We do." For the first time, Emma saw something raw in his eyes. Not arrogance, not pride, but understanding. Because he had lost family once. He knew that pain, and he would not let her suffer it too. Emma's voice shook. Promise May we'll get him back." Alexander held her gaze, his words deliberate. "I swear it. On my life." The guard burst into the room again. "Sir, our surveillance picked up movement outside the city. A van. It matches the order's network. We believe they're holding someone." Emma's breath hitched. "It's him. It has to be." Alexander rose to his feet, his face like stone. "Prep the car. We leave now." Emma grabbed his arm desperately. "You're still injured. You can't just—" But he cut her off with a glance sharp enough to silence her. "I don't care if I bleed out on the way. They took your nephew. They made it personal. And when it's personal, there are no rules." The ride into the night was tense, every second stretching into eternity. Emma sat beside Alexander in the back of the armored SUV, her fingers knotted tightly together. Her heart was torn between terror for Liam and fear of what Alexander was about to do. He stared out the tinted window, jaw clenched, his body rigid despite the pain searing his side. Finally, she whispered, "Why are you doing this for me?" His eyes shifted to hers, burning. "Because I've been where you are, and no one came for me." Her chest tightened. "Your father." He nodded once. "I won't let history repeat." The convoy of SUVs pulled to a stop near an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. The night air was sharp, filled with the scent of rust and oil. Guards spread out, weapons ready, as Alexander stepped out of the car. Emma followed, her legs shaking but her resolve firm. "This is it," the head of security murmured. "Thermal scans show at least half a dozen inside." Emma's breath caught. "And Liam?" The guard hesitated. "There's a smaller figure. Could be him." Emma's knees nearly gave out. Alexander's hand steadied her. "Stay behind me," he ordered. Her voice trembled, but she nodded. "Just bring him out alive." They breached the warehouse. Darkness swallowed them whole, broken only by the sweep of flashlights. Shadows flickered against rusted machinery. The air reeked of damp concrete and gasoline. Then, a laugh echoed. Cold, mocking. "Gray, I wondered how long it would take you." Alexander's face hardened. "Show yourself." From the shadows, a man emerged tall, cloaked in black, a serpent and crown insignia gleaming on his ring. Behind him, two masked men held a boy with wide, terrified eyes. Emma's heart shattered. "Liam!" The boy struggled, his small voice cracking. "Aunt Emma!" Emma surged forward, but Alexander's arm blocked her. His voice was a razor's edge. "Not yet," the leader smirked. "Touching, the florist's family. Such easy bait." Alexander's voice was cold steel. "Let him go." The man chuckled darkly. "You're in no position to make demands. Not bleeding, not broken, not weakened as you are." Emma's voice trembled with rage. "He's a child. He has nothing to do with this." The man tilted his head. "Oh, but he does. Children shape loyalty. Loyalty shapes weakness. And weakness shapes power." Emma's tears blurred her vision. "Please, take me instead. Just let him go." Alexander's eyes snapped to her. "Emma, no." But the leader grinned. "Oh, how noble, but unnecessary. We don't want you instead. We want you both." With a flick of his hand, the guards shoved Liam forward. The boy stumbled, crying out. Emma broke free from Alexander's grip, rushing to shield him. She dropped to her knees, wrapping him in her arms. "It's okay, baby. I've got you. I'm here." But her body trembled, because she knew it wasn't okay. Not yet. The leader stepped closer, his shadow looming over her. "Run if you like, but we will always find you." Roses wilt, petals fall, and in the end, nothing remains but the thorns. Emma's blood chilled. The words weren't just a threat, they were a promise. Alexander's voice cut through the air, sharp as glass. "Then maybe it's time someone cut the serpent's head off." The warehouse erupted in chaos. Guards surged forward. Masked men drew weapons. Emma clutched Liam tightly, pulling him behind a stack of crates. The boy sobbed into her shoulder, his small body trembling. She pressed her lips to his hair, whispering, "Stay quiet, stay with me." Across the room, Alexander fought like a man possessed. Despite his wound, he moved with brutal precision, every strike fueled by years of rage. Emma watched, her heart twisting. He wasn't fighting for his empire anymore. He was fighting for her, for Liam, for something bigger than himself. But the order was relentless. More men poured in, surrounding them. Alexander's chest heaved, blood seeping through his bandage. Yet he stood tall, defiant. Emma's voice broke. "Alexander, you can't. There's too many." He glanced at her, eyes blazing. "Then let them come." A gunshot rang out. Emma screamed, clutching Liam tighter. Smoke filled the air, shadows blurred. The leader's voice echoed, sinister and triumphant. "This is only the beginning." The warehouse shook with the thunder of gunfire. Emma Carter crouched behind the crates, arms wrapped tightly around her trembling nephew. Liam's small body pressed into her chest, his sobs muffled against her blouse. "Shh, baby, I've got you," she whispered, even as her own voice quivered. "Don't look. Just stay with me." But her eyes, her terrified, desperate eyes, were fixed on the man in the center of the chaos. Alexander Gray. Blood seeped through the bandage at his side, staining his shirt anew. Yet he fought like a man possessed. Every movement was deliberate, brutal, unrelenting. He disarmed one attacker with a twist, dropped another with a bone-crushing blow. But for every man that fell, two more seemed to rise. The order's leader stood at the back of the warehouse, untouched, watching with that serpent-like smirk. He didn't need to fight. His presence alone poisoned the air. Emma's heart twisted. Alexander was strong, but even strength had limits. And his body, already weakened by the knife wound, was breaking down before her eyes. Suddenly, one of the masked men broke free, sprinting straight toward the crates where Emma and Liam hid. Emma's breath hitched. She shoved Liam behind her, shielding him with her body. The man's shadow loomed. His weapon gleamed. Emma screamed. "No!" But before the strike could land, Alexander surged in from the side. He slammed into the attacker with a roar, sending him sprawling across the concrete. Emma gasped. "Alexander!" He turned, chest heaving, eyes blazing. "I told you, I won't let them touch you." Emma's throat tightened. She wanted to scream at him to stop, to protect himself instead. But there was no time. The order was closing in. The leader's voice sliced through the chaos, mocking and calm. "You can't win, Gray. You're bleeding, broken. And the florist? She's nothing but dead weight." Emma flinched, shame flashing through her. But Alexander's reply was a thunderclap. "Dead weight?" He spat blood onto the floor. "She has more courage in her little finger than your entire order combined." Emma's chest stuttered. Tears burned her eyes, not from fear this time, but something deeper. The leader smirked. "Such devotion. How touching. But devotion makes men weak." With a snap of his fingers, two more masked figures dragged something into the center of the warehouse. A chair. And strapped to it Emma's sister. Emma's scream ripped through the air. "Sarah!" Her sister's head lifted weakly, her face bruised but her eyes still fierce. "Emma! Take Liam! Don't let them!" A masked man shoved her back down, silencing her. Emma's entire body shook. They hadn't just taken Liam. They had taken her sister too. The leader's voice was silk and venom. "Two choices, Florist. One, you come with us, quietly, obediently, and we let the boy and his mother walk free." Emma's heart pounded, bile rising in her throat. "And the other?" she whispered. The man's smile widened. "Refuse, and you watch them die." Her knees nearly buckled. Alexander's growl cut through the air. "You won't touch them." The leader tilted his head. "Says the man who's already bleeding out." Emma's tears blurred her vision. She turned to Alexander, her voice breaking. "I have to do it. I can't risk them." But his grip seized her wrist, iron-strong despite his wound. His eyes locked onto hers, fierce, unyielding. "Don't you dare, Emma. That's exactly what they want. If you give them yourself, they'll kill them anyway. And you, and me." Her breath shattered. "But what if you're wrong?" His voice cracked, not with weakness, but with truth. "Then at least we go down fighting." The order's men advanced, weapons raised. Emma clutched Liam tighter, shielding his small head with her hand. Sarah sobbed against her restraints. And in that moment, something inside Emma snapped. She was done being afraid, done being a pawn. Her voice rang out, trembling but defiant. "You think I'm weak? You think I'm just a florist? Then you've underestimated me as much as he did." The leader's smirk faltered. Emma rose slowly to her feet, pulling Liam behind her. Her hands shook, her heart thundered, but her eyes blazed. "You want me? Then come take me." The warehouse stilled. Even the gunfire seemed to pause. The leader's grin returned, slow and poisonous. "Very well." He raised a hand. His men stepped forward. But Alexander's roar tore through the silence. "Over my dead body!" He surged forward with the last of his strength, tackling two men at once, dragging them down in a storm of fists and fury. Emma screamed his name, torn between rushing to him and protecting Liam. Her world split in two. Sarah's muffled cry pierced the air. "Emma, don't let them win." Emma's chest heaved, her tears blurring into fire. She turned back to the leader, her voice raw. "This ends tonight." The leader chuckled darkly. "Yes, it does." He drew a gun, and aimed it not at Alexander, not at Emma. At Liam. Emma's scream tore through the warehouse. "No." She threw herself in front of the boy, arms wide, ready to take the bullet. But the shot never came, because Alexander, bleeding, broken, but unstoppable, had hurled himself between them. The gun fired. The sound thundered through the warehouse. "Alexander Stagel." Emma's heart stopped. Blood bloomed across his chest. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, his body trembling. Emma's scream echoed like a dagger through the night. "Alexander." She dropped beside him, clutching his face, her tears falling onto his bloodied shirt. "Number, please. Not you. Not like this." His hand shaking, desperate, reached for hers. His voice was a whisper, each word carved from pain. "Emma, don't let them break you." Her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. The leader's laugh echoed, cold and merciless. "Look at your savior, falling, dying. You should have taken the deal." Emma lifted her head slowly, her face streaked with tears. But her eyes burned with something new. Not fear, not despair. Rage. Pure, consuming rage. She rose to her feet, standing over Alexander's bleeding body, her fists clenched, her voice trembling but thunderous. "You think I'm afraid of you? You think you've already won? Her voice cracked into a scream. You haven't seen what I'm capable of yet. The order's men froze, momentarily unsettled by the fire blazing in her. The leader tilted his head, intrigued. And Emma, once just a florist, mocked at a wedding, overlooked by the powerful, now stood in the ruins of a warehouse, a boy clinging to her leg, a sister bound behind her, and a billionaire bleeding at her feet. Something had awakened inside her, and the order was about to regret ever underestimating her. Emma Carter's body trembled, but it wasn't with fear anymore. It was fury. The kind of fury that came when a woman had been pushed too far, when everything she loved was dangled in front of her by monsters who thought she was powerless. Her florist's hands that once arranged roses and daisies, were now fists. And her eyes, red from tears, blazed like fire in the dark warehouse. She stood tall, shielding Liam with one arm, glaring at the serpent-ringed man who had orchestrated it all. "You came for me," she spat, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. "Well, here I am." The leader tilted his head, studying her as though she were a curious insect. "You have spirit," he drawled. "But spirit burns quickly. Fire fades, and when it does, all that's left is ash." Emma stepped forward, rage lacing every syllable. "Then you don't know me at all." The order's men shifted uneasily, their weapons raised. But something about Emma's stance, her defiance, made them hesitate. Because she wasn't cowering anymore. She wasn't begging. She was fighting back. Behind her, Alexander Gray groaned, his blood staining the concrete. Emma dropped to her knees for a heartbeat, clutching his hand. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please, just stay with me a little longer." His lips curled in a faint, pained smirk. "You finally sound like me." Her throat tightened. He was fading, and she knew it. But she couldn't break now. Not when Liam and Sarah's lives still hung in the balance. Emma rose again, fury burning hotter. Sarah, still strapped to the chair, shouted hoarsely from the chaos. "Emma, don't let them win. You're stronger than you think." Emma's tears broke, but her voice rang clear. The leader laughed softly, clapping his hands once. "Bravery from a florist. How quaint. But let's test it, shall we?" He snapped his fingers. Two masked men advanced, Ona toward Emma, Ona toward Sarah. Emma's heart hammered. They weren't going to talk anymore. This was the execution. But something happened. Emma didn't freeze this time. She didn't cry, didn't beg. She moved. Snatching up a jagged metal pipe from the ground, she swung it with every ounce of strength she had. The first attacker crumpled, caught completely off guard by the fury in her strike. The second paused, stunned that the florist had fought back at all. Emma's voice tore through the air. "Touch my family, and I swear you'll regret it." Oh. For the first time, genuine uncertainty flickered across the leader's face. The warehouse erupted again, guards loyal to Gray, bursting through the far doors, weapons blazing, forcing the order's men to scatter. Emma shielded Liam as bullets cracked against metal, sparks flying. She screamed over the chaos, "Get Sarah free!" A guard rushed to cut the ropes binding her sister. Sarah stumbled forward, collapsing into Emma's arms, sobbing with relief. The leader hissed, retreating into the shadows, his voice echoing like a curse. "This is not over, Florist. You've stepped into a war. You cannot win." Emma's voice roared back, raw and defiant. "Then you've just declared war on the wrong woman." The masked men fled with him, vanishing into the night like smoke. The gunfire ceased. Silence crashed down, broken only by the ragged sobs of Sarah and Liam, and the weak groans of Alexander Gray bleeding out on the floor. Emma rushed back to him, dropping to her knees. "Alexander, stay awake, please!" His eyes fluttered, his voice barely a rasp. "Told you, dead weight, huh?" Her tears spilled onto his chest. "Don't you dare joke now. Don't you dare leave me." He squeezed her hand weakly. "I'm not leaving. Not yet." Guards surrounded them, shouting for medics, securing the perimeter. Emma clutched Alexander's face, her voice breaking. "Hold on. Just hold on." His gaze locked on hers, heavy with pain but filled with something else too. Something unspoken. "Emma," he whispered. "Promise me, you'll keep fighting, even if I—" Her heart split open. She pressed her forehead to his, sobbing. "Number. Don't you finish that sentence. You're going to live. You hear me? You're going to live." Oh, for the first time in his life, the billionaire who once mocked her was depending on her. Hours later, the Gray mansion was in chaos, flooded with doctors, guards, and news suppression teams. Emma sat at Alexander's bedside again, her hands clasped around his. Liam slept, curled against Sarah on the couch, exhausted from the nightmare. Emma's eyes never left Alexander's face. He looked pale, fragile, nothing like the untouchable tycoon the world knew. But to her he had never looked stronger, because he had given everything. For her, for Liam, for family. The doctor's words replayed in her mind. The bullet missed his heart by less than an inch. He'll survive, but recovery will be long, dangerous. He'll need more than medicine. He'll need a reason to keep fighting. Emma knew. She was that reason now. As dawn broke, Emma stepped outside the mansion for the first time since the attack. The sun painted the sky gold, but to her, the world felt changed. She wasn't just a florist anymore. She wasn't invisible. She wasn't powerless. She had been mocked, belittled, underestimated. But now she had stood against the order, and they had seen what she was capable of. But as the breeze brushed her face, a car slowed across the street. The tinted window rolled down, and the same child's voice from the video whispered again, carried on a recorder. "Florist, the game has just begun." Emma's breath caught, because inside the car, a new figure sat, one she recognized instantly. Not from her past. From Alexander's blank prices. The car's engine purred low in the dawn light, tinted windows reflecting the golden sky. Emma Carter froze on the mansion steps, her chest tightening as the glass slid down. Inside sat a man. Not a masked enforcer, not a faceless soldier. This was someone different. His hair was slicked back, streaked with silver, his tailored suit as sharp as his eyes. Eyes that looked too much like Alexander's. And when he smiled cold, deliberate, it was the kind of smile that could stop a heartbeat. "Emma Carter," he drawled. "So this is the woman my son has risked everything for." "Oh." Emma's stomach dropped. Her breath caught. "Son?" she whispered. The man's smirk widened. "Ah, so he never told you." The ground seemed to tilt beneath her. Her voice cracked. "You're Alexander's father?" The man leaned back in his seat, the serpent and crown insignia glinting faintly on his cufflink. "Father, enemy, call it what you will." Emma staggered back, her hands trembling. "You're with them, with the order." He chuckled darkly. "My dear, I am the order." The words slammed into her like a hammer. The attacks, the threats, the boy's voice in the recording. All of it. Orchestrated by Alexander's own blood. Emma's knees nearly buckled. "Why? He's your son." The man's eyes hardened, sharp as glass. "Because Alexander Gray has forgotten who he is. He chose weakness. He chose love. And weakness cannot inherit power." Emma's chest heaved, fury rising in her veins. "You tried to kill him." His voice was silk over steel. "Correction. I tried to save him from himself. But he insists on defying me. And now you've only made him worse." Her throat tightened. "If you touch him again," he cut her off with a smirk. "You'll what? Strike me with another pipe?" Brave words from a florist. Emma's hands shook. Rage and fear warred in her chest. But before she could answer, the man leaned forward, his voice dropping into a hiss. "Take my advice. Walk away. Leave him. Because when this war truly begins, anyone near Alexander Gray will burn." The window rolled up. The car pulled away, vanishing into the waking city. Emma stood frozen, the morning sun suddenly cold. Hours later, she sat by Alexander's bedside again. He was pale, weak, but alive. His breaths came shallow, his chest bound tightly with fresh bandages. Emma stared at him, her mind reeling with the encounter. His father, the order's leader, the monster behind it all. And Alexander hadn't told her. Her hands clenched. Why? Out of shame? Out of fear? Out of pride? She wanted to wake him, to demand answers. But when his hand twitched against hers in restless sleep, her fury melted into something else. He had saved her, saved Liam, risked everything, and still he had carried this burden alone. That night, when the mansion finally quieted, Emma slipped outside to clear her head. But she wasn't alone. Sarah found her on the balcony, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. "You haven't slept," Sarah murmured. Emma's laugh was hollow. "How could I? Every time I close my eyes, I see his blood. I hear Liam screaming. I see that man." Her voice broke. Sarah's hand squeezed hers. "You mean Alexander's father?" Emma's eyes widened. "You heard?" Sarah nodded grimly. "The guards talk. Word spreads fast in a house like this." Emma turned to the horizon, her voice tight. "How does someone try to kill their own son?" Sarah's voice was quiet. "The same way people do anything cruel. They convince themselves it's for power, or control, or survival. But really it's just fear." Emma swallowed hard, her tears blurring the city lights. The next morning, Alexander finally stirred. His eyes opened, glassy with pain, but sharp as ever. Emma leaned in quickly. "Don't move, you're safe. The doctor says you'll recover, but you need rest." He tried to sit up. "What happened after?" She pressed a hand to his chest, firm. "Your men cleared them out. We're safe. For now." His jaw tightened. "For now?" Emma hesitated, her heart racing. She had to ask. She couldn't keep the secret. "Alexander. I saw him." "Al?" His eyes flicked to hers instantly, reading the weight in her voice. "Who?" Her lips trembled. "Your father." The silence that followed was suffocating. Alexander's face went still, the color draining from it faster than his blood had. Emma's throat ached. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was hoarse, but sharp. "Because you shouldn't have to carry that truth." Her tears spilled. "I already am. He found me, Alexander. He spoke to me. He warned me to leave you." His jaw clenched so tightly it looked like it might shatter. "What did he say exactly?" Emma's voice shook. "That anyone near you will burn." Alexander shut his eyes, leaning back against the pillows. For a moment, he looked less like the ruthless billionaire she had met at his wedding, and more like a haunted son, trapped in a war he never chose. Finally, his voice rasped. "He won't stop. Not until I'm broken, or dead." Emma gripped his hand fiercely. "Then we don't let him. We fight. Together." His eyes opened slowly, meeting hers. "You don't know what you're asking for. He doesn't just destroy his enemies. He destroys everything they love." Her voice cracked, but her resolve didn't. Then he picked the wrong woman to threaten. Alexander studied her for a long moment. Something shifting in his expression. Respect. Admiration. Maybe even something deeper. "Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Why do you care so much? Why risk yourself for me?" Her throat tightened. The answer swelled in her chest, terrifying and undeniable. "Because I love you." But the words caught on her tongue. She wasn't ready to say them. Not yet. So instead, she whispered, "Because someone has to." For the first time in years, Alexander Gray let out a fragile, broken laugh. A laugh that turned into a wince of pain. But still, it was real. "You're insane," he murmured. Emma smiled faintly through her tears. "Maybe, but so are you." Their hands stayed clasped, unspoken words passing between them. And for one fleeting moment, in the eye of the storm, they felt almost safe. But outside the mansion walls, the storm raged on. The order's insignia began appearing across the city, graffiti on buildings, symbols etched into doors, whispers spreading like wildfire. It wasn't just a secret society anymore. It was a message. They were coming, and this time they weren't coming quietly. The Gray mansion had never felt so suffocating. Heavy curtains blocked out the morning light. Guards patrolled every corner, their radios buzzing with coded chatter. Doctors came and went, their faces grim but silent. And at the heart of it all, Alexander Gray lay in his bed, recovering, but restless. Emma Carter sat at his side, her hand wrapped around his. But even as she held him, she could feel that his mind was elsewhere. Not on his injuries, not on her, but on him, his father. Emma finally broke the silence. "Alexander, you can't keep holding this in. You need to tell me everything." His jaw tightened. He didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the ceiling as though the shadows there were safer than her eyes. "You don't know what you're asking for." Her grip on his hand tightened. "I know enough. He came to me, he threatened me, and I can't protect Liam or Sarah or even you if I don't know the truth." Alexander's eyes finally shifted, meeting hers. For once, they weren't sharp or cold or calculating. They were haunted. His voice was low, gravel scraping through pain. "My father wasn't always the order's leader. He was just a man, a ruthless one. Yes, but human. Then he found them. Or maybe they found him. They fed his hunger for control. They gave him everything. And in return, he gave them me. Emma's breath caught. What do you mean? He swallowed hard. I wasn't just raised as his son. I was raised as their weapon. Groomed. Conditioned. Every deal I struck, every rival I destroyed, every empire I built wasn't just for me. It was for them. Emma's stomach turned. So your entire empire, his voice cut like a knife, was built on blood. Silence crashed between them. Emma's chest heaved, her heart twisting. She had known Alexander Gray was ruthless, arrogant, merciless in the boardroom. But this was different. This was slavery. Her whisper trembled. Why didn't you tell anyone? He let out a bitter laugh. And say what? That the most powerful man in the city, the billionaire everyone fears, is just a puppet dancing on his father's strings? I chose silence. I chose control. Until, his eyes softened, locking on hers. Until you. Emma's throat ached. Me? You reminded me that I didn't have to be like him. Her tears spilled, unbidden. For so long, she had believed she was nothing more than a florist. Insignificant. Invisible. But here, now Alexander Gray, the man who had once mocked her in front of hundreds, was saying she had changed him. But before she could speak, the doors slammed open. A guard stumbled in, his face pale, his chest heaving. Sir, we've got a problem. The city's on fire. Emma's heart lurched. What do you mean on fire? The guard's voice shook. The order. They've made their move. Businesses loyal to Gray Enterprises are burning. Streets are marked with their insignia. People are panicking. It's a war zone. Alexander tried to push himself up, grimacing against the pain. Get the car, now. Emma caught his shoulders. You can't. You're not strong enough. His eyes burned. I don't have a choice. If I don't face him, he'll take everything, and everyone. Emma's voice cracked. Then let me go instead. The room froze. Alexander stared at her, stunned. What? Emma's tears glistened, but her voice was steady. He wants me. He made that clear. If I go to him, maybe I can buy us time. Alexander's voice thundered. Absolutely not. Her jaw clenched. You're not the only one who can fight, Alexander. I'm tired of being protected while everyone else bleeds. This is my family too. My nephew, my sister, you. And if I can do something to keep you all alive, I will. His hand gripped hers, fierce despite the weakness in his body. His eyes burned into her. You don't understand. He doesn't negotiate. He doesn't spare. If you walk into his world, Emma, you don't come back. Oh. Her tears fell, her heart twisting with the truth she already knew. But her whisper was iron. Then maybe it's time someone showed him that flowers can bleed too. The guard shifted uneasily. Sir, we need to decide now. They're moving faster than we can contain. If we don't strike back, we'll lose the city by nightfall. Alexander's breathing grew heavy, his strength waning, but his will unyielding. Tell the men to prepare. If it's war he wants, it's war he'll get. Emma's heart pounded. And me? Alexander's gaze softened, his voice breaking through the steel. You're the only thing I can't lose. Her chest cracked open. She wanted to scream, to beg him not to say it, because it sounded too much like goodbye. But before she could answer, an explosion shook the mansion. Glass shattered. The walls trembled. Guards shouted as smoke poured through the hallways. Emma pulled Liam and Sarah close, shielding them as alarms blared. Alexander's father's voice echoed from a speaker, cold and merciless. You didn't listen, son. So now you'll watch everything you love burn. Emma's scream cut through the chaos. He's here. Alexander tried to rise, his body failing him, but his fury carrying him upright. Emma, get them out. Her tears blurred her vision. Not without you. The mansion burned around them. Symbols of the serpent and crown scrawled in fire across the walls. And as Emma grabbed Alexander's arm, helping him stumble toward the exit, she realized this wasn't just his war anymore. It was theirs. The mansion was burning. Flames licked the walls. Smoke curled through shattered windows, and chaos reigned as guards shouted orders and rushed the halls. Emma Carter clutched Liam to her chest, her other arm wrapped protectively around Sarah. Her lungs burned with every breath, but she didn't stop. She dragged Alexander Gray, his weight heavy against her, step by step toward the exit. His strength was nearly gone, his shirt soaked with blood, but his hand refused to let go of hers. "Emma," his voice cracked through the roar of fire. "Leave me. Save yourself. Save them." Her answer was a scream. "Don't you dare tell me to leave you." They burst into the courtyard, coughing, stumbling, the mansion behind them glowing like a furnace. And standing at the gates was him, Alexander's father. The serpent and crown ring glinted on his finger as his men flanked him. His voice cut through the smoke like a knife. "So, this is what you've chosen, son, a florist, a weakness, and now, ashes." Emma's body shook with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with fire. She stood tall, pushing Liam behind her, shielding Alexander even as he swayed beside her. "You call love weakness," she spat. "But it's the only reason we're still standing." The older Gray smirked, cold and cruel. "You've ruined him, girl. He was meant to inherit an empire. Now he bleeds for a child that isn't even his." Emma's chest heaved, her voice cracking. He bleeds because he has something you'll never understand, a heart." For the first time, the man's smile faltered. Alexander straightened, bloodied but unbroken, his voice trembling but steady. "She's right. You taught me to rule with fear, to destroy. But Emma taught me to live, to love, and that makes me stronger than you'll ever be." The Order's men tensed, waiting for a command. But the elder Gray's eyes narrowed, calculating. For the first time, doubt flickered across his face. Emma stepped forward, her florist's hands trembling, her voice fierce. "You've mocked me, threatened me, tried to break me. But look around. You failed, because I'm still here. And as long as I'm here, your son will never stand alone." The courtyard stilled. Even the fire seemed to quiet. For the first time, Emma Carter, the woman once belittled at a wedding, wasn't invisible. She was undeniable. The elder Gray's jaw clenched, his power shaken. "You think this ends here?" he hissed. Alexander's voice thundered back. "It ends with you." His guards surged forward, weapons raised. But before they could strike, Gray loyalists poured in from the sides, men and women who had once feared the Order, but now rallied to Alexander. The clash was swift, brutal. Emma shielded Liam, holding Sarah close, as the courtyard erupted. And then silence. The Order's men fled into the night, dragging their leader with them, defeated. For now, when the smoke cleared, Alexander dropped to his knees. His strength was gone, but his eyes never left Emma. He reached for her hand, voice breaking. "I mocked you. I belittled you. I thought you were nothing." Her tears spilled as she knelt beside him, clutching his face. "And now?" she whispered. His chest heaved, every word carved from pain but filled with truth. "Now I know, you're everything." Emma's sobs shook her body. Around them, the guards lowered their weapons, the fire fading into embers. Sarah wept, Liam clung to her leg, and for one fragile moment, the war quieted. The billionaire who once sneered at a florist had fallen not in defeat, but in surrender. To love. To her. Days later, the city whispered a new story. Not of Alexander Gray, ruthless tycoon, but of the woman who stood by him when the empire burned. The florist who faced the Order and did not bow. The maid of honor no one noticed until she became the reason a billionaire changed. On a quiet evening, as the sun dipped low, Alexander stood beside Emma on the balcony of his rebuilt home. His hand brushed hers, tentative but steady. "I don't deserve you," he whispered. Emma smiled through her tears. "Maybe not, but you have me anyway." And for the first time he believed it. The story that began with mockery at a wedding ended not with defeat, but with something far stronger. Love, respect, and a promise that no matter how dark the world became, they would face it together.